Hey, Terence.
hmm
Yeah, thanks for joining me again on this call. Um, I really have a few things here that I would. You've been very helpful in explaining a few things to our audience, and so I'd like us to engage in a few more this afternoon. And this again is still dealing with with what is going on in Geneva, because this is really a very critical point in this struggle. And I think that our people need to be very, very careful. Otherwise, history will repeat itself. And because of what has happened in Geneva, there've been concerns coming from our citizens. Valentine Eben is one of them. We all heard what he said. He was very, very concerned about the manipulation that our people are being manipulated by both France and La République. And I also have a piece here which also shows the same concern by Barrister Charles Taku. And I'm going to read that and then get your response. I am concerned that the secretive manner in which matters relating to the purported dialogue are organized are signs of bad omen. I remain committed to the objectives of our revolution, which is that on no account should anyone, by design or ignorance, betray the cause. I am very concerned that the secretive method of dealing with the purported negotiations may be the worst crime ever against our people, if not reversed. The performance of persons who were railroaded to Geneva and Brussels by special agenda NGOs, despite my warnings, is a matter of profound regret. That dangerous adventure must jostle us from our slumber. But for the grace of God, those two conclaves would have been disastrous. I repeatedly warned them, if the interest of the participants in our revolution is that they must attend training on peace negotiations, then when next we organize such courses for interns, I will inform some of them to attend. Brussels and Geneva have turned out to be bad dreams come true. Our next campaign about transparency must focus on this vice that is endemic in some of our leaders. When I think about the abductees, I weep for the predicament they are in now. They ought not be in this situation. Barrister Charles Taku. So, having listened to that, I want to say that these concerns are not coming from a vacuum. These are not people being scared. They are people reacting from things that have happened, that we have learned from our relationship with La République for 57 plus years now, and also from learned experience reading how the French have worked or dealt with other people. So when it comes to our own experience, I'm thinking of Fumban, and let me allow you give me a reaction to what I just said, and then we can move from there.
Well, I think the concerns expressed by Valley and obviously Barrister Taku are well founded. We are dealing with the French. Let's not fool ourselves about it. La République is a footnote in this struggle. As you know, in the past, the French they have referred to us as une colonie d'une colonie, which means basically we're a colony of one of their colonies. So they are the principal actors acting behind the scenes and pushing La République left and right. Now you talked about Fumban,
Yes.
and I think this is an opportunity for us to look at Fumban from a different perspective. I think there is a general knowledge of Fumban as two sovereign people meeting to decide how a federation was going to take form.
Mm-hmm.
I believe our people went into Fumban believing that to be the case. But again, on the other side, we had the French who were very much in control of the state called the Republic of Cameroon, who had something completely different in mind. And that was clearly expressed by one Pierre Mesmer in his biography. I think the title of that biography is Le Blanc S'en Vont. But before I go into what Pierre Mesmer said in that his biography regarding Fumban, the state of Southern Cameroon and the people of Southern Cameroon, I want us to really get an idea of who this individual was.
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask. That who was Pierre Mesmer in a position to know?
Yes. So let me give you a little bit of background of who Pierre Mesmer was. He was a military guy. You know, he served in Vietnam. I believe he was actually captured in Vietnam for a while. And he was part of the counter-insurgency operatives in Vietnam and also in Algeria. He was made the Governor General of Cameroon in 1956, and he was the person responsible for importing the counter-revolutionary warfare strategies and tactics that from Indochina and Algeria into Cameroon that he used in order to suppress the nationalists in Cameroon.
Yes.
So when you hear of Calais and all of these other tactics, that was the importation of Pierre Mesmer, you know, as Governor General of Cameroon. When we talk of Cameroon, obviously in French Cameroon.
Yes.
So after his colonial experience in Cameroon, he served in other places in Africa, but in Cameroon he was there from 1956. He was sent there in 1956. He was instrumental in setting up, you know, the machinery and the network of genocide that decimated the UPC, the Bamileke country, the Bassa country, and everything that most people who follow Cameroon politics are aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Pierre Mesmer served as the Minister of Army under Charles de Gaulle from 1960 to 1969.
Minister of what?
Of the Army.
Okay, Minister of the Army.
Okay. Today we call it Minister of Defense or whatever, you know, from 1960 to 1969. He was also the Prime Minister under Georges Pompidou from 1972 to 1974.
Yeah, so he knows the French establishment very well.
So he was an integral part of the French establishment. Now, knowing who Pierre Mesmer was, this is what he had to say about Fumban. He said Fumban was a sham. He said that save for appearances, Fumban was the annexation of the southern Cameroon. He said Fumban was meticulously prepared by French lawyers on AGOSC's behalf. So while our people were going into Fumban, thinking that they were going to be negotiating with their so-called brothers, you had somebody who was an integral part of the French colonial establishment, who just laid out the groundwork of what Fumban was all about. What their goal in Fumban was to annex the southern Cameroon. And by golly, they achieved that goal, didn't they?
Yes, obviously they achieved it, but what I think as you're saying this, I'm looking at our people sitting there in Fumban, because these French men or French actors were not in the forefront, they were in the background, right?
Correct.
So this was all happening without our people being aware of it, even though I do have a piece where Foncha does acknowledge knowing that they were there. What was the role of France in all of this business we've been talking about?
Well, we don't know. One cannot know what happened in France, but we know that the French people were in the Republic of Cameroon helping them. Most of their administrative officers were still there. Most of their institutions were manned by them. In every ministry, they were there directing the affairs, so there was not much change. It was this that we thought with unification, we were part of the British Commonwealth at that time. There would be no change. The British trade would continue with us, and so we could employ British officers to remain as usual. But when we start talking about independence, they also told us they were going to leave. They were going to back out, and they start backing out before the plebiscite. As a matter of fact, every British officer backed out. I mean, every British firm was removed before the plebiscite.
Yeah, if you look at some of the pictures around that time, if you look at in the 60s and leading up to the so-called unification, you see that on our side you had Foncha and his people who were mostly African, and then on the other side you see Aïdjo, always surrounded by a cadre of French men, of white men. You know, the historical picture of that time, you should paint the story, you know. But I remember, I think there's one picture in Fumban where you actually see a lot of white people there, you know, a lot of white Frenchmen there. But we are going by what Peter Mesmer confessed.
Yes.
That Fumban had been meticulously prepared by French lawyers. And I'm sure he was saying that with the knowledge that, you know, the British had given them the go-ahead to do whatever they needed to do in order to annex this territory. And they achieved their goal. And I think that in order to achieve that goal, I think one of the first objectives that they had was to make sure that the British were the co-conspirators in this scheme. And I think they got the British to do that, and then the rest of it was just a matter of time.
Well, can you touch, because I think what they were doing in Fumban did not start in Fumban. I think they must have manipulated every other situation to make sure that Fumban happened the way it happened, with Foncha and his ignorant or uneducated representatives sitting on one side and they sitting on the other side, nobody else in that room.
Well, the British did not show up in Fumban. The British were supposed to show up in Fumban.
Yes.
I think the United Nations were supposed to show up in Fumban. They did not either, you know. So you had a territory which was still under UK administration. The administrator wasn't present at the time when they were making critical decisions regarding the future of that territory. On the other side, you had a country which was independent already. They were independent as of January 1st, 1960, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you had lawyers, French lawyers, meticulously preparing for that meeting.
Well, let me ask you this. They can argue that, hey, any country has a right to hire anybody to come and represent them. Would you say these Frenchmen were hired hands to come and assist La République du Cameroon?
Yes, they were hired hands, and they've been hired hands ever since. And I'll put hire in a quotation marks.
Well, let me frame it in a different way. Valise spent a lot of time talking about La République hiring a lobbying firm in Washington to help them in their case. Were the French lawyers that Mr. Pierre Mesmer is talking about, were they acting in the same capacity?
Well, it could be this. You know, things have obviously evolved since since 50, 60 years ago. So what the French used to do by sending, lawyers, they probably won't do that today. They'll probably do that through a lobbying firm, for example. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's about people who have an interest, which is not the interest of the Ambazonian people, making decisions which will obviously not benefit the Ambazonian people. Be that French lawyers coming and showing up directly, or be that lobbying firms being paid for by the Republic du Cameroon and by France. So I would argue that using a lot of the money that they reap from Southern Cameroon to Ambazonia.
Yes, I guess what is guiding me in this question is the fact that it is well known that the independence that La République had was not real independent, because the cooperation agreements, which some have called slave agreements, that were signed. So these Frenchmen were not acting as paid agents. They were actually the real owners who are using Ahidjo and his African agents as a front to themselves. Would you say that?
Yes, I mean, they've acknowledged that when they say Ambazonia is a colony of one of their colonies, that's what they're saying. They're in charge of Cameroon. They've always been in charge. They're still in charge. And that's why you see them scheming in order to remain not just in charge of Cameroon, but also to continue the loot in Ambazonia. And what's happening in Geneva and Brussels is definitely part of that scheming.
Okay. So that was our experience with the French. Vali also talked about the Ivorian model. Can you expand on that, please? Because I think to know them very well, we need to not only understand them in our own theater of operation, but also in other theaters.
Yeah, I think, and I did watch a live show that Vali did explaining the Ivorian model. He touched a lot on the military tactics that they use in Ivory Coast, and that we're also seeing in Ambazonia today. But I want to look at it from a much more political and international perspective.
Okay.
In Ivory Coast, the French had a goal to remove Gbagbo from power and replace him with Alassane Ouattara, right? So, organizations, countries, they come out with strategic plans, they have the ultimate goal, and they have objectives that would lead them towards that goal, right? And as we've just discussed, in the case of Ambazonia, the French ultimate goal was to annex the territory.
Yes. And
they had certain objectives. One of the objectives was to make sure that the British were not active participants in Pumba, right?
Yes, and the UN was not there either.
They accomplished that. Another objective was, obviously to have somebody like Ahidjo, who had signed cooperation agreement, to be in charge so that that country remains a colony. They achieved that. And, they did achieve the goal of basically annexing the territory. And even if you look at some of the documents that came out of Buea in 1964, they were continuing on some of those objectives of how to efficiently assimilate all of these people, But let's go back to what the objectives that they had in Ivory Coast. The ultimate goal was to get Gbagbo out of power and replace him with Alassane Ouattara. But there were certain challenges. First of all, Alassane Ouattara at the time wasn't eligible to run as president in Côte d'Ivoire.
Yes.
Because of this concept of ivoirité, right?
Yes.
Which another president had instituted.
Was that Bidier? Was that Bidier?
Yes, that was Henri Conat Bidier who instituted the policy of ivoirité, and I think it was part of the constitution. So the first objective towards the goal of replacing Gbagbo with Alassane Ouattara was to make sure that Alassane Ouattara was going to be eligible to run for president. So how did they achieve that? They achieved that through the AU and through a mediator called Thabo Mbeki.
Okay.
Right? So Thabo Mbeki actually is the one who convinced, as a mediator in that crisis, Laurent Gbagbo to use one of the instruments of the Constitution to override that constitutional requirement that Alassane Ouattara should run. So that was the first objective that they achieved in their goal towards replacing Gbagbo with Ouattara. The second objective was to make sure that the rebels that the French had supported through Burkina Faso would not disarm before the elections took place. That was achieved. So the Gbagbo agreed to go to elections without the rebels disarming, and the country virtually partitioned.
Did he argue for them to disarm?
There had been arguments, and actually there were agreements for them to disarm, but they were never implemented.
Okay.
So they actually went to elections with the rebels still under arms. And then finally, the third stage was obviously to go to carry out the elections. The Ivorian Constitutional Council declared Gbagbo the winner, and of course Alassane Ouattara, who ran, he had been made eligible to run for the elections. through this backdoor mediation through the African Union and Thabo Mbeki. And now I don't think Thabo Mbeki was complicit in this conspiracy. I don't think he thought he was doing the right thing. He wanted to defuse the situation. But the French had a game plan in their head. They were seeing 10 steps ahead than what Thabo Mbeki was seeing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So they went to the elections.
Just hold a second. Just hold a second. So there are people who participate in this master plan without knowing.
Correct.
And having honest conversations and convincing other partners to relax and don't worry about some of their concerns and buy into the master plan.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think Thabo Mbeki did that in good faith, you know, and I can imagine him convincing Gbagbo, because at the time all of the trends show that Gbagbo will win elections overwhelmingly. And I can imagine Thabo Mbeki was like, you know, this is a deal to let him run. You're gonna crush him anyway, you know. But they knew what they were doing. They still had their rebels in arms. There was an arm embargo, which only the government was respecting, so they could still rearm the rebels through the north, through Burkina Faso, you know. And anyway, they did go to the elections. You know what happened? Gbagbo was declared winner by the Constitutional Council. Ouattara contested it. And basically what happened was a military overthrow using the rebels, using the UN forces, and using French forces, which had been embedded with the UN forces and with the rebels to overthrow Gbagbo, arrest him, sent him to the International Court of Justice, tried him for crimes that the rebels have been established to have committed. They tried him for war crimes. Obviously, he was eventually acquitted. But guess who they eventually hired to try Gbagbo? It was a lady from Gambia, right?
Yes.
So they had an Argentine as the prosecutor at the time all of this was happening, who was meeting with Ouattara and meeting with Sarkozy and all of these people. And as soon as Gbagbo had been sent to the Hague, they got an African woman from Gambia, from an Anglo-Saxon country, to preside as the hangman for Gbagbo. You know, so they achieved their goal.
I think you also need to add that. It took them. I mean, Alassane Ouattara just declared that next year he will not run for elections anymore, and I think the case was finally concluded at the Hague this year, right?
Yes. Yes.
So it's taken over how many years before we came to trial?
Well, Gbagbo was deposed in 2011. This is 2019, so we're talking about 8 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So what the larger point we're trying to make is that we are dealing with people who have a long-term goal, right?
Yes.
And in this case, I would say the goal of the French is to keep the status quo, is to keep Ambazonia as une colonie d'une colonie. You know what I'm saying? That is their goal. And it may take a different form because of the resistance of the Ambazonian people. You may end up with something like internal self-determination. You know, we've heard that phrase thrown around before.
Yes.
But their goal is to keep Ambazonia as une colonie d'une colonie.
Yes.
And I think our people should be aware of that and not fall for any of these schemes.
Yeah, but before you go to the conclusion, though, can you let's come back to our situation now. So we assume that the French are still in the background manipulating what is going on, because I read Le Monde is reporting that all these NGOs were all NGOs that come in with a purpose. The Geneva meeting was sponsored by La République. That the situation, that the Brussels one by the, I think it's called European Institute for Peace.
For peace.
Yes. They also part of it. There's another player here which we have not mentioned. It's called, and this comes from the Pope. It comes from the Vatican. Committee of Saint Egidio. Okay? So what Le Monde is speculating, or actually they know because they have insiders who are talking to them. What Le Monde is saying is that Paul Biya's plan with the French is that these NGOs in Europe should take care of the diaspora, of the Ambazonian diaspora, while the Catholic Church, under this organization from the Pope. Let me read how Le Monde describes that organization. It says, besides the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, Paul Biya received in April to the palace emissaries of the community of St. Eglio, often described as the underground diplomacy of the Pope. Okay, so that's the other organization that Paul Biya intends to use on the ground in order to silence the Ambazonians in the territory. All of this not to reach the goal that the Ambazonian people want, like you're saying, but from what Le Monde also says, on conditions of anonymity, a regular peace negotiator sums up the situation like this: we are in a preparatory phase, but the problem is the real willingness to negotiate. The hope is that the carrot technique of amnesty and the stick of repression would work. So that is do you get the big plan?
Yes, but I'm trying to think about who are they giving the carrot to?
Well, I can. The carrot is to obviously some of the diaspora noisemakers, if I may put it in quote or not in quote. But they're talking about. I'm thinking that the carrot of amnesty is to the diaspora.
I mean, what are they gonna? I mean, why would they amnesty people in the diaspora? Have the people in the diaspora committed any crime? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense, but it's a way to appease everybody. Like you said, they want that the ultimate goal is to keep Ambazonia. And they're taking care of the different elements of this. So let me ask you this. Do you think, and I want to read a statement here that was issued by AGOSC. They call themselves AGOSC. It says an opportunity for honest unity and strategic practical collaboration. Okay, so they are taking the lead. I want to read. It says leaders and representatives of all Southern Cameroonian, aka Ambazonian liberation movements, held sessions in Europe under the theme capacity building towards a negotiated settlement. The letterhead free document released from Brussels today, May 28, 19, and pinned by 10 other signatories, fully endorsed by AGOSC. So they're very proud that they are the ones taking the lead to implement this French plan. Do you think they're doing it knowingly, or are they doing it the same as Thabo Mbeki did it? Because obviously there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money free of charge. They were paying for everybody to come live free. So there's a lot of free money sponsoring this, and AGOSC is very proud to be the leader. Are they doing this knowingly, or are they being used the way Thabo Mbeki was used in the Ivorian situation?
Well, let's hope they are not doing it knowingly. And if they are setting up themselves to be used, let's hope that discussions like this will guide them to follow a different path.
Okay.
That's the importance of us having this type of discussion. That's the importance of people like Vali saying what they said, and I believe you have a letter from Barrister Taku, as you mentioned,
yes,
expressing his concerns. So we want to go on the record and say that this is the history of these people. This is how they work, and let us not be witting or unwitting conspirators in our own continued annexation and colonization. So analysis like this hopefully helps them make better decisions, but if it doesn't, it opens the eyes of the Ambazonian people, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that count. They are the ones who are going to make the final decision. the final decision depends on them. They are the ones in revolt. They are the ones paying the ultimate price. And I think informing them about some of these things and sharing this perspective and insight will be important in them making the right decision and them knowing who will be an effective spokesperson for their interest.
I have another quick question for you. And this question is important because the leaders of AGOSC have come out talking about a certain force they're creating on the ground. Do you think this is a thing that Ambazonians are going to win militarily? Or this is part of the lying to the Ambazonian people in order to play this French game?
People better placed than me, people with better intelligence assets than us. I'm talking about somebody like Thibault Nage. I'm talking about even French officials have said there is no military victory in this conflict. Not by La République and not by the Ambazonian forces. We are in a stalemate. And in order to get out of this stalemate, we need honest discussion addressing the root causes of the issue. And at this point, knowing the games that the French play, knowing how they used the AU and they used respectable people like Thabo Mbeki in the past.
You know, they even used Nigeria because Nigerian brought forces into Ivory Coast.
Yes. Knowing how all these shenanigans that they do, anything, and now they're using the European Institute of Peace. When I read that, I went to the website and looked at some of the management team of the European Institute of Peace, and at least one name that I saw was an envoy that I think it was either the EU or the UN had sent during the Ivorian crisis. And what was happening during the Ivorian crisis was that we had all of these people who were working for French interests, going through the silo of the EU, going through the silo of the United Nations, going through the silo of the AU, going through the silo of the West African, what do they call it, the West African Economic Community, ECOWAS, and so on. They even went to East Africa and got somebody called Raila Odinga.
In Mexico, they got him in Mexico, yes.
Yeah, I think they had some international conference in Mexico to declare against Gbagbo. So they used, so I won't be surprised that the next stage of this scheme is to identify a mediator who will probably be from an Anglo-Saxon country in Africa, who will be perceived as being neutral, but who will be working for the interests of the French. As we saw all of this in Cote d'Ivoire, So again, the interest of having this type of discussions is that the Ambazonian people are informed about what may be taking place and be on the lookout. So they are empowered enough to say, okay, this doesn't smell right, and we are not going for it.
Well, I just want...
Yeah,
please go ahead. Go ahead.
No, at the end of the day, we need a forum, right? We need a forum. And from my point of view, that forum has to be the United Nations, nothing else. The Security Council, whereby the root causes of this issue is addressed. So we will not play these games to mediators and capacity building and all of this stuff. There was no capacity building before they annexed our territory. There was no capacity building before they demarcated our international boundaries. There are things that are fundamental, which it doesn't make any sense.
Well, you were talking about that they will find an Anglo-Saxon person or an Anglo-Saxon mediator. Let me tell you, Le Monde actually reports that according to our information, Leopold Maxime Ekoko, the head of foreign intelligence services, worked to open talks in a capital of East Africa or in an English-speaking West African state. So you were saying it as though you were speculating, but they're already doing that.
Well, this is what they do, and I think, as I said during my last appearance on one of the shows, is that the French have perfected the method of using third-party organizations in order to achieve their goal. And we know now that their goal is to maintain Ambazonia as the colony of the colony. And obviously our goal is to make sure that that doesn't happen and we become a de-annexed, decolonized and independent territory and people. So I am hoping that discussions like the one you have with me and that you have with Valley and others help to inform and educate our people and give them another prism to look at some of these things that are happening around them.
I'm going to ask you the last question here, and it's a very tough one, but I want you to give it a shot. And here's it: that in the history of French colonization, they left Vietnam under fire. They left Algeria under fire. They left Rwanda under fire. How do you see, or how would you advise the people of Ambazonia to get themselves out of this?
It's like you're asking me to advise somebody who wants to be alive to stay alive, right?
Yes.
What do you tell somebody who wants to be alive to stay alive? Find every possible means to stay alive. If you have to run to the bushes, you do that. If you have to pick up a damn gun and fight, you do that. If you have to be in the diaspora and talk to your local congressman and talk to your local senator and talk to an NGO that has justice as a core principle, you do that. I want to go back to what the leadership in jail released. It's independence or resistance stands forever. And I don't think there can be any more powerful advice than that. You do whatever you need. Because these people are defending themselves. They're defending their humanity. They are not encroaching on the territory of another people. They were attacked savagely. And they have to stay alive. They have to stay alive. And in order to remain alive and have and secure the humanity for future generations of our people, they have to have an independent nation based on international boundaries that are not being drawn today and that were not drawn by Ambazonia yesterday.
I think among the things that you mentioned for the Ambazonians to do, the one thing we cannot do is help the French or allow ourselves to be played as we just came from discussing.
Well, and that's exactly why I think some of these discussions that we're having is important, because we need to be aware of the characteristics of the French. We need to be aware of how they conduct business. We need to be aware of how they have achieved their nefarious goals in Africa, and we need to counteract that. And I'm hoping that discussions like this, like the one you had with Valley, like the letter that that Barrister Taku has put out, will help Ambazonians, be better prepared not to make mistakes and not to help the French, as you say.
Well, Terence, I want to thank you again for your contributions. I've always said, once you can educate our people or any people, the mind once stretched is not going to shrink, and that's what. And I think it's the education that our people that we are sharing with each other that is creating the resolve on the ground to make the people in jail to say what they say, independence or resistance forever. I want to thank you again for participating in this on this show.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Thank you.